So we're going to follow this lab document to design the school template starting at the access layer. I have a VLANs, all the information you need to do this, and the step-by-step configuration sequence. We're following a very industry standard configuration switch sequence for layer 2 switches. So we just have the stack built, and there's no other configuration on these access switches, this access stack. So we're going to configure the host name, username, and password for a super user account, and turn on an enable password. Then we're going to go and start getting interesting as we configure VLANs. So we've already defined all the VLANs that we want to use. We have to define them globally with the VLAN command, and then we have to start adding ports to those VLANs. So I'm going to first start by tagging the uplink ports, the ports that go from the access switch to the distribution switch. I want to tag them in all VLANs. That's because routing is centralized in the distribution layer, so access switches will send just tagged layer 2 traffic up to the distribution layer switch to be in order for them to be routed. I have to quickly remove a stack port configuration that shouldn't be there, so I'm doing that now. It was preventing me from tagging the uplink ports in the necessary VLANs, but I removed that config that's unwanted, and now I can tag them. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to configure the VLAN ports that will connect to either PCs, phones, or both, where a PC is connected behind a phone. Now first we start, for those ports, we're going to first start by tagging those ports, which I have dedicated 12 through 24. We're going to tag them in both those VLANs, VLAN 101 and 201. Later we're going to specify a dual mode port for the PC native VLAN. We're going to do very similar thing for the 8 ports that I've dedicated to connect to access points. We're going to tag all the VLANs that wireless users will use or wireless traffic will be, and also the management VLAN that APs will use to communicate control information. So like I said, we have to specify dual mode on ports that require a native VLAN. So we go to the interface level configuration, we say dual dash mode, and specify the VLAN ID that should be used for that should be the dual mode VLAN, meaning the native VLAN, the VLAN on which untagged traffic will be received. Next, I'm going to build the lag, or link aggregation. This is similar to a port channel. I got to specify which ports are going to be in the port channel. I got to specify a primary port, and I got to deploy that lag. The primary port is going to actually own the configuration for the lag after the lag is built. So any other further configuration for the lag you need to make, you make under the you use the primary port, and that applies to all the other ports in the lag. Trying to configure secondary ports in the lag will actually spit an error on the CLI. All right, let's configure spanning tree 802.1w rapid spanning tree port parameters. So on interface 121, which is the primary port, so on the lag port, I'm specifying that as a spanning tree point-to-point link. And on the remaining ports, I'm going to specify those as edge spanning tree 802.1w edge ports, and also turn on spanning tree BPDU guard. This will help protect us against loops that are formed beyond the campus access layer by users and people doing weird stuff. So one thing that I didn't show in this config is that underneath the VLAN configuration, I've also configured rapid spanning tree with the spanning tree 802.1w command. We're using per VLAN rapid spanning tree for loop protection in this environment. I'm also configured the switch's management IP address and management IP default gateway. It's not something that's used by devices connected to the network. It's used by the switch itself to communicate to the outside world. Configure some banners. We'll enable AAA authentication to secure access to the console. We're going to generate a crypto key for SSH communications. Just note that you have to have a default username and password set up if you want to use SSH, otherwise you won't be able to get in. We're going to configure NTP, and then also the last thing we're going to do is on the ports that connect to devices, we want to enable QoS by simply using the trust DSCP command under the interface level. So we do this in order for packets that are marked by devices for QoS, like with DSCP code values. We want to honor those